Good morning, everyone. Today in this particular session, we are going to see some of the important things which you need to use frequently whenever you deal with the JavaScript, right? So, the first of all, I hope all of you are aware of the event handling, right? So, first of all, let's discuss what is event. So, an event is defined as something that takes place, and that is exactly what it means in programming as well, web programming as well, right? So in a normal, if you are creating a forms in a .NET, right? So then also whenever you are clicking on a button and then something takes place, right? So that is called an event, right? That is known as the on-click event. So similarly, in this JavaScript also we are having the event handling concepts, right? So what is an event handler? So event handler is a JavaScript code that is designed to run each time a particular event occurs. So whenever I'm going to click on a button, right? So then what action I need to take, right? So that is known as the event handler. So this is the general syntax, guys. That is a tag, attributes, and event name is equals to whatever handler, what action you want to take, that is known as the handler, right? So basically there are four types of categories of an event. That is a user interface event, mouse events, key events, and some of the HTML events we have, right? So another category would be the timely events, right? So that occurs after these, that particular action happens after the particular time, right? So that is known as the timely event. So let's discuss what are the particular examples of these events. So first of all, user interface events. So that particular happens as controls or other objects on a web page gain and lose the focus, right? These events are often caused by the other user actions such as tab key press. They can also happen programmatically as well, right? So whenever I click on some particular text box, right? So that got focused. So focus event will occur. When I come out from that text box, click anywhere in the form, that is known as the blur event, right? So this kind of events can be occurred with the user interactions. So that comes under the user interface event, right? Mouse event. So it's a very common, right? Mouse event occurs when the user moves the mouse and press one of the mouse button, right click, double click, single click, right? So that kind of events can be considered under the mouse events. Then next is the key events. Key events occur when the user presses or loses, or you can say the releases one of the keyboard keys, right? And only certain HTML events can capture the keyboard events. Okay. So key press, key up, key release, right? So that kind of events can be considered as a key events. And finally, there are several events that is specific to certain HTML elements, right? And they often relate to the browser window itself. So, or to form controls and other objects that are embedded in the web page, right? So that comes under the HTML events. Now, what is JavaScript event handling? So event handling is a one software routine that processes the actions such as keystrokes and mouse movements, right? It is the receipts of an event at some event handler from an event procedure and subsequent processes. So in a simple statement, in a simple way, if you want to explain these, then you can say that whenever anything happens, then what kind of actions we need to take, right? So that is known as the event handling. Okay, these are the functions of event handling, right? So we have already discussed the functions. Okay, these are some extra functions. If you want to explain, then you can explain it. Now, these are the predefined event handlers we have. So suppose say for example, if I take example of on blur event, right? So on blur event, it executes when the input focuses leaves the fields of a text area or selected option. So as already I mentioned in my previous example in user interface, right? So suppose if I have one text box, right, and if I click on it, then it got focus, and when I come out from that, then it loses the focus, means it's a blur event, right? Similarly, on error, on click, on change, on load event, right? So that kind of predefined event handlers we have. Another events related with the mouse is on mouse over, on mouse out, on reset, on select, on submit, on unload, right? So you can just go by any of these as and when you require that, right? So let's go for the one event handling example so you get the idea about it. So first of all, this is known as the timely event. Suppose say for example, after some delay means 1000, right? So here, suppose if I set the particular interval, right? So I get the interval of 2 seconds, right? So after 2 seconds, that particular time will be displayed, right? So here you can see that it displays the current date and particular time, right? So here it displays the time, current time, right? So date is an object, right? So first of all, we are using this date function to store that value, and from that value we are going to specifically fetch the get hours, get minutes, and get seconds, right? Here this particular concept is known as the form accessing. So that is our next topic, right? So you just ignore this at this moment. It just displays the particular value, set the values in a text box. So here you can see this is a time text. So here a one text box we have, in that our time is going to display. So the name of that text box is time text. So here if I want to set the value of this for as a time, so I need to store this time variables value in this text box value. So in this kind, that particular thing will display the time, and this event will occur on onload, right? So when this particular function is going to be called, right? So that function is going to be called when my browser's document gets load, right? So here you can see if I execute this code, so on onload event, it is going to display the time. It is going to display the time, right? So current time, it is going to display in a one text box. Now, suppose say for example, here you can display this particular time in anywhere in a label and all that, right? So for that, you just need to access this form element. Here I have displayed this time in a text box. You can display that time anywhere, right? So according to that, you have to write the logic. Now, second example, according to this particular event handling is, this is very simple example that form validation example we have. So as you have seen many a times whenever you are filling up the application forms, right, online. So if you miss out some field, some fields are required, right? So compulsory you have to put something into that, otherwise it will display the error, right? Sometimes if you are setting a password, then it displays the hints, or if you enter a wrong password, then it displays the error, right? So that kind of validation checks you if you want to put in your form, right? So that can be possible with the JavaScript. Okay. Now here you can see that we have one form. In that particular form, we are taking email address, username, and password from the user. So here, according to fields, you just set the criteria and you just provide the name, right? Here on email, on blur event, we are calling email validations, right? So whenever I'm entering some email address into the text box, email text box, right? And whenever I come out that, then this email validation function is going to be called. What is the job of this email validation function? Simple logic I have written. Only I want to find the @ symbol, right? So here, first of all, I need the value from that text box. So how can I fetch the value from the text box? So here, the name of this text box is email, right? So document dot form name you have to provide. So form name is my form. In that which input? So in that email input, and I want to fetch the value. So very simple. You are just fetching the value from here, and you are storing the value over here, right? And then we are calling the index of, we are finding the @, right? If it is there, then if it is not there, then I want to display that please enter a valid email address, right? And I just want to set the focus on this, on that particular text box. So I'm going to put a focus over here, just simple email validation, right? Now the next thing I want to validate is validate form function. I'm just going to call, right, from here for the form, validate on submit. So whenever I'm submitting the form, it calls the validate form function, and it validates whether a user has entered any value in name box or not. Second validation, it is going to check whether the password length is greater than 6 or not, right? So password must be at least 6 character long. If you enter 3 or 4 digit 4 character password, then it will not validate, right? So this kind of validation checks I want to check for that. So first of all, I need to fetch the value from the user. So how can I fetch the value? Document dot myform dot name dot value, right? This is a form name. This is a content name, that is a element name, and the value. Similarly, over here, form name, password, and the value. So you can see after that, the logic is very simple. If the username is equal to null or blank, the name cannot be blank, value will be pop up. If the password length is less than 6, then also it pop ups a message, right? So here, suppose if I execute this code, then you can just observe things over here, right? So what happens right now? Right now you can see this is my form loaded, right? Now when I click over here, then it got focus. So email got focus, right? But whenever I click somewhere over here, then it loses the focus, means on blur event is called. So whenever the on blur event is called, I want to, yes, I want to check the email address. So email address, please enter a valid email address. So I just want to show over here you guys that whenever on blur event, when I loses the focus, then email validation is going to be called. And in email validation, we are just putting the message that please enter a valid email address, right? So same thing over happens over here, right? So you can see, okay, now I'm going to enter admin@gmail.com. Now I click anywhere, then no error will be there, right? So this is the on focus and on blur and how it calls. Now if I submit this, so it shows the message that name cannot be left blank, right? So I need to enter the name. Okay, fine. I need to submit. Password must be at least 6 character long. So I also need to enter the password. Suppose if 123 entered, password must be at least 6 character long, right? So 456. Now if I submit it, so you are a valid user. If everything is goes fine, then just it displays the message that you are a valid user, right? That's it, guys, right? So this way, you just get the particular values from the form. You can access the form, and you just carry out these kind of validations. Okay. Now in this particular thing, I want to discuss how you can access the form values. So that form values how we are getting. So JavaScript provides access to the forms within an HTML document through the form object, and which is the child of document object, right? So as with all document objects, we have a properties and method of these objects corresponds to various features and attributes of the HTML form, right? So we can use that. Okay. So form is the child of the document object. So we can use that, right? Now, what are the form processing you can handle? So has the user left required field empty? Has user entered valid email address? Has user entered valid date? Has user entered in a numeric field? So various kind of form validations you can perform, guys, right? Here we have, these are the different properties, that is action, elements, and you can say method, name, and target. So that we have already discussed, right? So whenever we discuss about the form processing, okay, so you can observe that all these fields are very important whenever you want to access any form, right? So suppose say for example, if you see over here that form also have two specific methods, right? So that we have already discussed, that on reset and on submit, right? So submit method we already know, and reset method is called to reset all the fields which are related with the forms, right? So whatever form fields you have filled, so if I click on a reset button, then it will clear out all the fields. Okay, now here how you can access the form elements actually, right? So there are three different ways. Okay, so here in this particular example, you can see over here that one way is a number, so that through the document dot forms, and here you have to provide the numbers. Name, document dot forms, you can provide a name over here, and a regular element retrieval mechanism that we have used in our example, that document dot form name dot field name dot value, right? So that we have used this particular thing, we have used in our previous example. So suppose say for example, here in this form I have a name customer form, two text box we have, first name and the last name, right? Now, suppose if I want to access this form, so this form is a one form I have. So you might get window.document.forms 0. So it assumes the first form in the page. Suppose if you have more than one form, then you can put the number according to over here. Suppose if I want to access this form by name method, so document forms into bracket, I need to provide the name of this particular form. So that is a customer form. And the third way regular element retrieval is window.document.customer form. So this is very useful, right? So if you want to access any form, right? So there are three different ways, guys, right? Either you provide the index, either you provide the name, or directly you can provide the name. Next is accessing the form field. So now suppose uh, we have accessed the form successfully, customer form, right? But in that form, I want to access the specific elements, right? So we have elements, you can say collections here, and that refers to the fields of elements, right? Now, suppose if I want to access the first name field, right? So what are the different ways we have? So first is you have to find the particular form. In that form, you have particular element that is a first name that you have to provide over here. Suppose say for example, directly the easiest way that I want to provide customer form and first name. So this is the easiest way, guys, to access the particular element, right? So you have to choose according to your requirement how you can access the particular field. So similarly, in this example, we have access the particular, you can say input, email, text box, right? Password. So from this, we have fetched the value. So first of all, I need to access the form. Then I can access the element. So name of the form and the name of the particular element, right? So here you can see document.myform.name.value, right? Suppose password field value I want to fetch and store in a variable document.myform.password.value. So this way you can just go for the particular examples, right? So I have created one another example, beautiful example. So if I execute this, so here you can see this kind of applications you can create, guys. Suppose if I submit directly this form, then it will display message like this: please enter your name, right? So this will be the exercise for you guys, right? You just create this kind of beautiful form, right? Put some validations over here, right? If I click on this, so that error will gone. Okay. So likewise, you can just provide the different kind of validations into the form, right? So that's it, guys, for this video, right? We are going to discuss some another topic in next video. Please stay tuned.